And welcome back, students. Today we get to discuss the class object as we get into our talking about programming with inheritance. So let's start with the class object and just what it is. So Java has a class that's the ancestor of every class. So pretty much no matter what class you make or what class exists in a Java library, it exists as part of this class. Now that every class is derived of a class, therefore which is derived of another class, which is derived of another class, yada yada yada, all the way up until you get to derived of the class object. So every object of every class is of type object, as well as being of the type of its class, so it's a string, and also the types of all of its ancestor classes. So if we use our employee one, that means every hourly employee is of type employee, and it's also of the type, let's say, we had an example last time of person, and then a person might be an example of type object. Even classes that you define yourself are descendant classes of class object. Again, so it doesn't matter whether it's a class you wrote or a class that comes from the Java libraries, it is a member of class object. If you do not make your class a derived class of some class, so let's just say you just make a straight class. You're not saying it doesn't extend anything, it's just a regular class. Well, what's going to happen is that Java will then automatically make it a derived class of the class object. So you don't have to do anything because it's automatically done. The class object allows you to write Java code for methods with a parameter of type object that can then be replaced by an object of any class whatsoever. Now, you will eventually encounter library methods that accept an argument of type object and hence can be used with the argument that's an object of absolutely any class. So it's kind of like, this is cool. But there's a lot of things that go with it, so don't get all excited yet about that. Now the class object is in the package java.lang. So remember, java.lang is the default library package. So you automatically have it. So you don't have to worry about any import statements because it's imported automatically. All right. As I just mentioned, you don't need to make an import statements to make the object available to your code. All right. Let's really quickly talk about toString and equals. Remember, these are two methods that we commonly see across many classes. The class object does have some methods that every Java class inherits. For example, every object inherits the methods equals and toString from some ancestor class, which is either the class object or a class that itself inherited the methods ultimately from the class object, such as our employee class had a equals and a toString method that hourly employee would then inherit. However, the inherited methods equals and toString will not work correctly for almost any class you define. You need to instead overwrite the inherited methods with new, more appropriate definitions, because a lot of times things change, or what you want those methods to output or compare, they're going to be two totally different things. It's important to include the definition of the methods toString and equals in the classes you define because some Java library classes also assume your class has such methods. And so because they assume you have an equals method, or they assume you have a toString method, if you don't include those in your code, it's very likely that your program may crash. Now, there are no subtleties involved in defining, or in our case, redefining and overriding the method toString. But we have seen some good examples of the method toString in many of our classes, whether we look in Programming 1 or we look in Programming 2, there's lots of methods of how toString is used. And we've also seen a little bit with equals as well. Now, the definition of the overridden method equals does have some subtleties that we will discuss in the next lesson. So toString is pretty straightforward. You just pretty much plop them in there and it makes a string. Equals, there's a little bit more finesse to it. All right, one last method I just want to make you aware of, but we're not going to use yet, which is the clone method, all right, which is a method inherited from the class object, and its purpose is to return a copy of the calling object. However, we're not going to worry about the clone method at this time. I just want you to be aware about it, and we're actually going to discuss the clone method in the next chapter. And that's it for today, folks. A nice, real quick and easy one. So until the next time.